Hello, everyone, and welcome to Series 4 of our Farm Stress Real Talk with Penn State Extension podcast. For this series, we will be focusing on the resources, teams, and individuals within Penn State Extension that are approaching farm stress through their own unique perspective, their own lens, to really provide those resources to farmers and their families in our communities. We know that Penn State Extension has a lot of resources available in all 67 counties throughout the Commonwealth. And so the reason we wanted to highlight these specific areas of extension throughout this series is really to show farmers and producers and really help guide them to these resources and tools that we can connect them to their local extension educator and get them to know their areas of expertise. On that note, today I will be talking with Paula Ledney from Penn State Extension's Farm Transition Team. As someone who has grown up in the farming community, I know I'm seeing this transition process unfold currently in my family, so I am really excited to learn alongside all of you listeners today the resources that Penn State Extension offers families throughout the Commonwealth and really even beyond the Commonwealth. So, welcome to the Farm Stress Real Talk podcast. Paula, are you able to start us off by telling us a little bit more about yourself and your team?
Yes, thank you, Amber. I'm really happy to be here. So again, my name is Paula Ledney, and I'm a business educator on the Business, Entrepreneurship, and Economic Development team, which is currently housed in Extension's Horticulture unit. I am also the co-lead of the Farm Transition team, as well as the co-lead on the Farm Financial Management team. And my focus in Extension is mostly on retirement planning, and that's for any farm, food, or natural resource-based business. So this encompasses providing education on topics such as the retirement plans that are available for self-employed business owners, such as farmers, the importance of and how to develop your financial statements, effective personal budgeting to find the money to allocate for retirement savings, and the planning that is essential for Medicare and Social Security eligibility. So within the farm transition work that I do, I tailor this programming to the retiring farmer generation, as well as to the new and beginning farmer generation that is taking over the business. I'm also a certified farm transition coordinator with the International Farm Transition Network and assist farm families with the process of developing the actual succession plan, which includes coordinating, scheduling, and facilitating the family meetings, where the nuts and bolts of the transition process starts, and then leading the family through the entire transition process. So I want to give you a little information on the members, the other members of our farm transition team. So the team currently includes Jody Gawker, who is the other co-lead of the farm transition team. We have Samantha Garrett from the dairy business team and Brooke Dewar from Penn State Law. So Jody is great. She's also a business educator on my same team, and she specializes in farm transition planning, also business management and workforce development. And she also teaches the Farm Sense curriculum for borrowers that are going through FSA. So she is also a certified farm transition coordinator with the International Farm Transition Network. Our next person is Samantha Garrett, who is a dairy business educator and focuses on dairy business management, dairy processing, and also a big focus of her work is agricultural biosecurity and food safety defense. And she's also a certified farm transition coordinator. And she focuses most of her efforts with farm transition with our many dairy farms throughout the state. And the last but not the least person on our transition team is Brooke Dewar. And he is a staff attorney with Penn State Law and specifically works for the Penn State Center for Agricultural and Shale Law. He works on our team and he provides a lot of expertise on farm business structures and the legal structures of land ownership. He is extremely knowledgeable and a vital part of the team, and he can answer a wide variety of questions as they pertain to agricultural businesses and the law. So, we are just thrilled to have him on our team as well.
Wow, so it sounds like there's really a lot of expertise on that team. So again, really excited to just learn more and dig more into what resources your team has to offer. So moving forward, what are some of the common stressors that your team is seeing with your work and through your work with farmers and producers?
Well, as we all know, there are many stressors for farm families, and I'm sure within the other podcasts that you've talked about a lot of those. So there's problems with machinery, and of course the weather, labor. You look at animal and plant diseases, commodity prices, general economics of the country, and even consumer opinions. Are all general stressors for farmers and ones that they have little control over. But there are also stressors that we often don't think about or are not as readily apparent. And these are things like if you're part of a farm business, sometimes there's just little time to talk through difficult problems, especially during really busy times of the year. There's a lot of intergenerational differences that are just really difficult to work through when you think someone should think the same way that you do, but they don't. And you just can't understand why that is. And that can cause a lot of stress. There's a lot of excessive workloads that hinder ability to cultivate, valuable relationships. And then, health pain or mobility issues that are connected to just years of physical labor or injuries on the farm. So, there's a lot of common stressors. As a business educator with Extension, the stressors that I mostly see or we mostly see are the ones related to finances. And, the ones I specifically see in my work revolve around the lack of funds set aside for retirement, as I mostly focus on retirement planning, and the lack of a clear business structure and practices that delineates who's actually in charge of what, so who's in charge of record keeping and reporting it out to the rest of the family. Also, the whole gamut of communication issues that often just boils down to not having those important conversations regarding the farm business and who is taking over the business and who in the family is responsible for certain aspects of the business. And, I often say that the hard skills, we talk about hard skills such as record keeping and who pays the bills and getting the taxes in on time. A lot of people don't like that type of work, but really I look at those skills as the easy skills. When it comes to farm finances, what it seems to me and what I've seen, it's like the soft skills that are supposed to be easy, that people don't give time and attention to, the soft skills such as communication skills that are the really hard part when it comes to farm transition. We have seen this in a lot of families. Our team is not that old, but in the work that we've done so far, it really comes down to the communication. That is one of the common stressors, just is that lack of communication. And, we see very few people that want to look ahead and focus on what will happen when there's a sickness or injury or death in the family. And this unwillingness to talk about these issues can cause a lot of stress. Now, I love talking about finances and specifically retirement planning and everything that comes with that. And I always find it hard to believe that people don't want to talk about these things. And I think that planning is so key and so critical, and I love to do that. I love to plan. I love to look ahead. I love to think of all the contingencies. So it's been, interesting for me and a learning experience, a learning curve for myself, just to have learned through the years that, a lot of folks are really not comfortable with that. They really don't like to look ahead and think of their own passing or those of their loved ones, which is very, very understandable. But not communicating that, the lack of stress, I think that causes a lot of stress with the farmers that we see.
Yeah, certainly I don't think that anybody likes to look at their own mortality, and how much time they have on this earth. And I think just listening to you talk about farmers in general and the skills that are almost needed to be successful, right? You have your ability to be somewhat financially competent, also hopefully this ability to communicate effectively with different generations. When you're talking about farm transition, you're really looking at trying to create a very well-rounded individual through soft skills and some of those more tangible hard skills. And I think sometimes in the general population, people don't realize that these are all the skills that a successful farming operation or a successful farmer really needs to be able to implement to some degree, just to be able to keep their farm solvent and to keep that tradition and that legacy, in the family going. So really insightful to have you kind of bring all those skills to light and know that they're available, or there's resources available to help people develop those skills, through Penn State Extension and the farm transition team. So you talked a little bit about how you're a newer team in Extension. So what specific tools or strategies is the farm transition team offering to help mitigate, help relieve some of those stressors to users, producers, and really those in the farming communities?
Well, so, as Extension, we have our standard slate of products such as webinars and presentations and conferences, and I'll touch on those a little bit later. But we have a really nice, new and innovative way our team is supporting farmers in the state, and that is through some direct one-on-one assistance. So we have a program that is just about ready to be announced that's going through our internal processes, and this will be available to any farmer within the state. So it is basically a farm transition consultation package, and it has a bunch of services that includes everything from, the initial scheduling, the coordinating and facilitating the family meetings that is really the start of the farm transition process of getting everyone on board. It includes the goal setting where we sit down and, we've done some where we've sat down with families and we start off with, just a values exercise, what everyone values. And I'm sometimes hesitant because if farm families, and I think, Amber, you touched on like all the skills that farm family businesses have to have. And I think what's really unique is like communication problems. And I'm from a large family, so I know what it's like to communicate with a lot of different personalities. But when you throw just general communication issues into a business, it just makes it doubly difficult sometimes. There's just so many different ramifications. And I just think farm family businesses are just really unique from any other kind of, even other family businesses, and that, you then pour in so many additional stressors such as weather and just the hard physical work of it. So, there's just a lot to unpack. And, we come to this with a whole lot of compassion for folks because we just know that there's so much going on. So, we start with we don't start with the finances at all. We start with what are the goals of each members of that farm family of, multiple generations within those families. So, that's the start to it. So we start with those family meetings, and we start with goal settings and, the job descriptions of each person within that farm family business and what job descriptions they want to have going forward. And, I like to tell families when we sit down and, start these family meetings, like, this is your opportunity to get to air all the things you've wanted to say, and if not now, and you can open up a can of worms there with a lot of folks, but that's what you want to do. Like, this is your opportunity. And I emphasize that. And I like to look around the room at everyone's like, this is your time to say what you've been wanting to say. Let's just get it all out and start here. And then, we look at where the business is and then where it wants to go, where everyone wants it to go. We'll work through with farm families, working through those like current job descriptions and what folks want to see as their job going forward. We'll also help develop those job descriptions and like and who wants to be the future farm business managers. Our package will also include like business financial projections that account for the salaries, benefits, and living expenses required by each of the invested parties. So with this new plan, we're coming up with this new offering. What the farmer will end up with is a transition plan that outlines the needs and desires of the family that can then be provided to the legal and accounting professionals to minimize their professional fees. So, if you work with us on this, we can help you do all those visioning exercises and then see if, go through the finances to then see if your vision can be realized with what you're currently producing, or if you may need to add enterprises to the farm or change the structure. We've had some transition plans or families work with that have transitioned into they were a dairy or they were running beef, and the kids don't want to do that. They want to have a vegetable operation. So, there's a lot of those type of things. But the very first thing is to sit down and identify, what does everyone want? What are their goals? If you just jump in and everyone thinks, retiring generation thinks, well, they want to surely the kids want to keep the beef herd, and the kids don't want any part of that. They want to diversify into something else. We can also work through like how you transition the management of the farm. This is a new and innovative way, a package of services we'll be offering. Our internal process should be done here within the next few months, and that will be offered out to farmers throughout the state. And one resource we like to make farmers aware of is that the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture has a grant program. It's called the Farm Vitality Grant, and they will reimburse 75% of costs up to $7,500 for developing this type of plan. The funding within this Farm Vitality Grant program can be used for farm transition planning and also a variety of other agricultural business needs. So if you want to work with an accountant to, work on your record keeping, if you want to work with an attorney for some type of legal structure, or, any type of farm business management, that grant's available for. And it's, again, also available for farm transition. So in any work that we do, we are always making farmers aware of if they want to work with us or any other farm transition coordination service, if they need to work with an accountant or a business consultant, Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture has this Farm Vitality Grant, and you can access that online through Department of Community and Economic Development single application for assistance, and that's on the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture's website. And we are here as Extension educators to help you, walk you through that grant application. We can't write it for you, but we can give you some insight on how best to phrase some of those things. And from what I've heard from folks that have received it, it's a pretty easy application. And it's reimbursement, so you pay it up front. And I think you can even, for services that you've already used back until 2020 or 2019, you can get reimbursed for it too. So it's a really great resource. So when you're looking through getting any help that has a fee attached to it, you don't have to have additional financial stressors. This is something that, is available to you as a resident of the state. We don't want to add any more financial stress to the situation. There is help out there for this.
Yeah, that direct one-to-one assistance and those consultations sound like, honestly, they'd be well worth the money, I think, to have that very individualized family plan where you're airing everything out, you're getting those expectations from all the family members involved in the farming business on the table. So you just know that you're hopefully on the same page moving forward and trying to ensure the future of the farm, really, and to be able to have individuals there to guide you through those conversations, to guide you through putting pen to paper and getting those financial plans, those legal plans, just everything in order that you can take that and then just basically hand it over to the attorneys. That sounds like really an awesome service that I think really is something innovative and unique that, Penn State Extension is going to be able to offer in the near future. So again, really excited to hear more and learn more about that as it develops and as we start sharing it out from Extension and our teams. So, I know you had said that you were still a newer team, but, what are you seeing through some of these webinars, through some of these workshops in terms of success stories or even just skill building? As a team, are you seeing positive results from those?
Oh, absolutely. So we present a number of different conferences throughout the state, throughout the year. And a lot of the feedback we get is, a lot of farmers just don't know where to start. They just don't know where to start to even address it with other family members. We have a number of farmers, that we come across that they don't have a family successor. So a lot of the program information we put out is how to find a successor if you don't have a family member that's taking over the farms. We've been working with Pennsylvania Farm Link to partner with them to just bring their land linking database information out to farmers. So that's an avenue for them to look at. So providing that information that, there's a lot of folks that want to keep the farm in farmland. They don't have family members to take over. Just getting that information out there to connect them with other service providers that can help them has been critical. And then we always get a lot of folks really interested in the legal transfer. So I think a lot of folks equate farm transition planning. What they're really thinking of is estate planning. So it's just the legal ways to transfer the land and transfer business assets, which is a very important part of that. But I really feel, and a lot of feedback we get is, you need to start at that beginning with those conversations with your successors and members of the family. First, what do they really want out of the farm business? What do they want to see the land used for? I have a favorite quote, and my colleagues laugh when I say it because I say it all the time, is a quote from Stephen Covey, which is begin with the end in mind. You have to start out knowing what you want, what your goal is. And, that goal will really drive your estate planning. That will really drive what you end up paying your attorney to do for you. A lot of the feedback we get, and I think the skills that people come away with, is just knowing the process to work through, that, you can transfer the land. That's kind of the easy thing to do. You can go to an attorney and say, well, we want to transfer this, we want to trust, and they can do that for you for a fee. But you may get home and realize that that's not what everyone really wanted. Starting with those conversations, just that communication skill building, and we even talk, or we either do this ourselves or have guest presenters talk about just the basics of communication and how to ask open-ended questions. And we often find that a lot of families really want one-on-one assistance with sitting down and helping facilitate those conversations. So, that is one of the reasons we're looking at doing that one-on-one type of assistance.
And I will agree that I think, again, just based on my personal experience and some of the conversations I've observed between my father and my brother going through that process, just having that more unbiased person there, that mediator or facilitator, like you had mentioned, definitely helps take the emotion out of a conversation if it becomes a little bit heated or argumentative. So certainly I can understand and appreciate the value in that, to have someone kind of guide that conversation.
Amber, if I can add too, that, Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture offers through Penn State law the ag mediation services. So that is something we've coordinated with some of our farm families, is that when they have a number of issues that sometimes, are long-seated, or, anytime you get multiple generations with multiple spouses and multiple ideas, now sometimes that's really hard to work through. There is free mediation services available through Penn State law that farm families can use to get even more specialized assistance in working through those problems. So like having an independent, unbiased person to help you can sometimes really, really make all the difference and keep that farm and farmland and keep everyone as happy as they can be within that process. So that's just something I wanted to bring up, is that there are those services, and those are free of charge, and that's through Penn State law. And, we as Extension can connect you with that. And I just want to say, like, when we're talking about success stories, I have one in mind, and I won't go into the details of it, but, their success basically was based on just really good communication between, in this case, two generations. And there was a situation where the grandparents were aging, the grandmother passed away, the grandfather was ill, and he had a grandson that he wanted to see take over the farm. There were also a generation sandwiched in between, so of course they had to take care of, there's always the talk of fair versus equal. What's fair? Is fair always equal? And fair is not always equal. And what they did really well, and they had a very successful farm transition, is they just communicated the whole way through the process. The grandfather, knowing that he was ill, he brought the son in to how they do the record keeping. So grandma showed him how they kept their records. Went through like all of his purchasing and planning for the year. So this is when you buy this, and this is when you do it. And what also I think is often overlooked, they made sure they introduced their grandson to all of the service providers in the area, and all the family friends and acquaintances, and, that they would borrow equipment from. And they had handshake agreements with, you'll come help me and bring this equipment. Just made sure he had all those connections were solid. And they just did an excellent job in transferring not only financial knowledge, but they transferred all like the managerial knowledge and all those other things, like this is the feed dealer you should go to that's going to give you the best deal, and who the friends were within the family and who to contact. That one was really, really, really worked well. And they did work with an attorney and some other folks as well for the legal actual transfer of assets. And they had a large number of assets, which most of our farm families do. There's a lot of equipment to take care of and transfer titles and land and, rental houses sometimes, but they were both willing to face the fact that he was getting sicker. He needed to transfer all this knowledge, and that one worked really well. So, like I said, I think the hardest part is just the soft skills of just being willing to have those hard conversations and work through it. But, I look at that particular farm family as like, wow, what a successful transfer. And, it's gone really well for that grandson.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's one thing that I think it can easily be overlooked in the farm transition process is even if you have all the assets in place, financial, legal, but that warm handoff to the
Right.
producers and the contacts that they're going to be working with. I mean, that's huge,
I think that's a really nice way of phrasing it, is that warm handoff, like just making sure that, and I know when they went through that process that, these folks that they were talking with were just really happy to welcome, hey, this is this person's grandson. It was just a nice way they saw that legacy, torch being passed there, and they were more than happy to help him out once his grandfather then did pass away.
That's a really neat story. So thanks for sharing that one with us, Paula, because that's a great example, I think, of how to have a successful farm transition planning process in place and implement it that leads to success in the future. So you've given us a lot of resources. You've given us a lot of information, and it's been so great talking to you today. For our listeners out there, how can they contact you? What ways are best to learn more about some of these tools, the support, the workshops, the one-on-one consultations? What's the best contact information that you can provide to the listeners?
Okay, so our team offers a number of webinars and courses and in-person programming throughout the year on business and farm transition topics. The best way to access that is just to go to the Penn State Extension website at extension.psu.edu and type in farm transition. You can type in farm succession, and there you'll find all of our current offerings. As those webinars are put out, they'll be listed. The courses were pretty much up there year round. And then also you can, if you have any questions on anything farm transition or business, farm food fiber business related questions, we do have a listserv. So if you just email business, it's business finance marketing at lists.psu.edu. And if you just type in there what you're looking for and the question you have, that will get to the business and entrepreneurship team. So you'll find the farm transition, the co-leads of the farm transition team there. We will get your information. You can also email me at my email address is pay103@psu.edu, and my phone number is 814-483-7157. Any of those ways, and also just call your local extension office. If you call with a question on farm transition, it will get to me or Jody Gawker, who's the other co-lead of the team. We can connect you with any member of the farm transition team, or if it's just a business-related question, we can get you to the right people within extension. So if you don't remember anything I've said on how to contact, you can just call your local extension office, and that's easy to find in the phone book or just typing it, Googling it, and we can, get you connected with any of those resources.
And certainly we'll try to get some of those, like your email address, the contact information, the listserv information, and your phone number into the program notes or the episode notes of this podcast too. So that's another place for listeners to grab it. As we kind of start to wrap up, as Paula mentioned, the Penn State Extension website is always a great resource. That's that www.extension.psu.edu. A lot of information on different program areas, agronomy, horticulture, dairy education, but then also some mental health and wellness programs, parenting programs, just a large variety of programs and topic areas on there. Just want to give a huge thanks to Paula for carving out some time to chat with me today. I know I definitely learned a lot more about what Extension and the Farm Transition team has to offer. So just really excited to be able to help spread that as a resource even through the Farm Stress team, but also just to help out those farm families that we're reaching out to. So again, thank you, Paula, for joining me today. And thank you to the listeners for tuning into this episode of Farm Stress Real Talk with Penn State Extension. Remember that we are here to support you.